Good evening and welcome to Whiskey Wednesday. Joining once again my co-host for tonight, Mr. Mike Hylton. Today we're going to talk about the power of positivity and the illusions that negativity can bring to our environment. I'm your host, Dr. Dan Ford, and this is EchelonOrchid.
Guess who's back?
Mike, my friend, welcome back.
Thank you for having me. I always get so pumped when I hear that intro music. Thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. Hopefully some friends will come on here soon and tell me whether or not our levels are where they're supposed to be. I am definitely not a sound engineer, but yeah, hey, I may just need to upgrade a little bit more of my equipment. I can at least get the mixing right. People will probably have to put up the sound on their end, but I think it's okay. But let's see. We've got only someone from YouTube. Hopefully,
I'll cheers to that.
hopefully some people will tell us if they can hear us properly or not. If not, well, I'll figure it out. It's all about having fun anyway.
So, Dan, your topic for today, this evening, very interesting. How did you come up with it?
So I've been rereading this book from Ari Weinswig, and I really love Ari. He's basically a University of Michigan grad, so he knows what he's talking about. But it's called The Power of Beliefs in Business. Ari, I've talked about him a couple of times. He's got a very successful restaurants and service industry based things, and then he figured out, wait a minute, one of my biggest problems is training. Like, I've got all these companies and they don't all necessarily follow the same service model, so I'm going to get them all doing that. And then he branched it off into like executive coaching and bigger business stuff. And so he's got a series of books that I truly enjoy. They are very entertaining and very, very thought-provoking. So
Did this one provoke some thought for you?
oh, absolutely, because I think it's very true. I mean, so a lot of this in this portion of the book thus far happens to be about the cycle of belief. And so if you happen to believe Jimmy or Sally is an idiot, every time they say something, you're like, oh, geez, what's this idiot going to say now? And they're going to do something. You're like, see, I knew they were an idiot. Well, what if we changed that a little bit and said, hey, Sally or Jimmy is a really good person, and maybe there's something I can do to help them realize that they're a good person. Maybe there's something they're missing instead of just thinking they're an idiot. But then it got into...
I wonder if that's our default notion. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think in some of those ways, then it comes back down to this part, the illusion of negativity. And what I think when I hear that is, well, if I could just get rid of this thing, if I could just move this person to here, then everything is great. Well, no, you're starting off, feel like on a negative premise, and you're going to keep falling down that, or going deeper down that rabbit hole of excuses. Well, hey, that didn't work because of this. You know what? It's not my fault. You gave me this person. That person's an idiot. However many different times you want to say it, that's, I believe, to me in my mind, the negative illusion does not result in a positive realization.
I agree. There's two elements there you're mentioning. There's this notion of negativity can be a self-fulfilling prophecy of that, wait, he'll make a mistake, and sure enough, you'll catch it. And it can almost sort of feed itself and kind of perpetuate and be an endless cycle, as you're saying. But then there's also the aspect of just being negative, and I feel it can be empowering at some levels depending on how you use it. So, for example, negativity, if you identify and say things aren't perfect here, well, no one's ever got anywhere saying woe is me, but it's not perfect, but I can be the element of change to improve things. So it's perhaps there's a balance there.
Well, there's always everything always balances out. No, right? This is what it is. This is one of my pet peeves. Oh, I want a good work-life balance. Well, it does balance. I think what you want is a proper amount of time in which you can spend outside of work that allows you to recharge and be, well, I'll say, present in both your personal and professional life. And that particular equation, some people may need 50-50. Some people may want much more of a personal life than their professional life. Some people may need a lot more professional, and their personal life helps invigorate them. So, it all balances. Like, you've only got 100%. No matter what you do, it's 100%.
It's going to balance out, and it all depends on your priorities, where you are in life, and how integrated you want to be. Some want it completely separate, some want to be fully integrated. And can they work together synergistically in a way?
Yeah, absolutely. So, when I start thinking about this aspect of, well, my teams, my people, I'm still guilty of it, but I think I'm more cognizant of when I do it, in that no, I really truly focus on, are they a good cultural fit first? If the answer to that is yes, and they are trying to perform properly based on our mutually agreed upon expectations, that aspect of what I like to call the employee manager social contract.
Yes.
Right. And I think we talked about it once before, but hey, as a manager, I'm going to do all these things. Basically, it comes down to, I'm going to try to provide clear direction for what I want, and I'm going to provide you the tools necessary to accomplish it, and I'm going to provide you the training, all these things. And you as an employee only have to do one of two things. Either accept what I say and deliver upon those expectations, or take that opportunity to renegotiate those expectations, because myself, now I got to turn into that leader. If you had a better idea, I need to take that and agree to the alternative outcome that you still need to go and deliver upon. Like, that's it. Those are the only two things to me as an employee you need to do, which both really comes out deliver. Deliver based upon what I want, or deliver based upon my intent, and you showed me that what I wanted was not necessarily the best solution. You provided to be an alternative, which was better, and now you're going to still deliver on it. But that's the employee's part, and it's my job to promote you. Like, hey, you're the one doing it. I should never take credit for what you do, ever.
Exactly, but there is an element of supporting it and coordination that should be part of the success of that work. Particularly if it was something that was risky and accomplished the goal of what you were looking, or the objective.
Yeah.
And so that's important. Now, you mentioned something about this that's very interesting to me, and that's the illusion of negativity. I wonder if you can expand on that from what you think it is and what you see.
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is people saying, well, the grass is always greener on the other side. Is it? I don't think so. Um, hey, if we just switch out this vendor with this one, everything will be great. Oh, if we just add this because we're having all these problems, everything will be great. Yeah, that's not been my experience. The grass is hardly ever greener. um,
But the alternative, what if you're satisfied? Now, does that support growth if you are satisfied?
so I would say, well, let's take the aspect of satisfied into two different things. Am I satisfied with our current growth, or are you saying, and I'll just take both answers, is my satisfaction mean I've now become comfortable? Now, if I've become comfortable, innovation can't occur. I'm like, I'm good. But if I'm satisfied because the current team, the current solutions I have in place are all performing based upon expectations, then I'm good because we're doing what we were supposed to do. Now, I feel like my job in this particular aspect now becomes a little bit more of the I gotta be the conductor. I gotta all right, am I got enough power? I gotta this because now maybe some other people might start what this whole solution, they might start becoming comfortable. And if they're comfortable, then the person to the left, the right, and front and back, they might start becoming comfortable. And so what was starting to be performing based upon expectations might be starting to become complacent and comfort. And I need everyone to be comfortable being uncomfortable because what I have found is that technology people are just as apprehensive to change as everyone else, maybe for different reasons. And so I want to constantly keep that flux of, are you comfortable or are you trying to make some really good wine and you're letting the grapes struggle and we're making the progress that we need to make?
Well, what do you think about this? I think there's companies out there that either perceive a enemy or a competitor in the market, and they use that negative energy to make change. And I'll pick on your favorite company, Apple. Their enemy is complexity. They want to simplify everything as much as possible, from the UI to the hardware ecosystem. You could basically say that's what their objective is, and they almost made it so much instilled into their culture that's a personification of this, enemy. And do some cultures, maybe even including the United States, perform better with some type of known competitor, if you will, or near peer competitor, saying, this is what we're up against. Let's come together. And could you say that's negativity rather than this is what we can achieve and we can work on it and get there without the threat of competition? Sometimes competition is that negative force that helps us.
Well, the first part I would say is I hate Apple. Um,
That's why I called it out.
I don't really hate Apple. There's some things that Apple has some good use cases for. I think what Apple does, and many organizations should understand, is that Apple provides you an ecosystem in which you understand the framework in which you can operate. And as long as those aspects and that need to fire within that framework are mundane tasks, things that are not important to your overall business success, by all means. It's the same way I feel about automation and anything. Automate the things that are repetitive, and I can use the human power to solve better problems. And so Apple does provide quite a bit of things within that framework that allow us humans to not have to worry about that. Now, unfortunately, I think many of us humans are perfectly acceptable or perfectly, receptive to being comfortable. So I don't look at competition as a negative. I I don't look at them as being an enemy. I I can't get better without co-opetition.
So when I see what Apple has done, they take it to such a level of degree, what I would call it, almost vilifying complexity, to make it so simple that you just have this white AirPod case that is just very simple. It does what it does very simply, very well. And that's what they've done with all their products. To the point, as you're saying, oversimplification. Now, I think the only way to get there is not by thinking about it and dreaming about the utopia of it, but vilifying complexity as an enemy by reducing what is out there, and or even starting from very simple premises and building upon it and keeping it simple.
Well, I think when you start saying that there's an enemy, and I'm not going to use the cliche, opportunity, because I don't think that's what it is. I think that the mere fact that there's a problem to be solved is a positive. And that problem solving is what brings forth innovation.
Let's see.
And so we're always looking to solve a problem. I mean, at least from what I'm doing, I'm trying to solve something, solve for something, even if it's not seen, because that's what innovation does. It's solving a pain point. And I don't look at that as being negative in any way. I think that's a positive because as we continue to evolve as a species, as individuals, then we're freeing ourselves up to solve better problems. And it's just going to keep going. I mean, think about it. When you were, 25, 26 years old, working at that five-sided building across the river, the Mr. Mike Hylton today would eat that guy for lunch.
That's true.
And why is that? Because you solved how many problems between then and now?
Well, it's continuous improvement, and it is in a sense of saying maybe things can be better, and maybe the grass is greener, and maybe and instead of focusing on I'm thinking, I'm saying negativity can be a positive thing, and maybe it's not an illusion. Maybe it's like, I don't like the commute. I'm going to fix this commute. I don't like my working hours. I'm going to fix it. And maybe negativity can be useful in some aspects, is what I'm thinking.
Well, I think where I see where you're going. So to me,
Yeah.
the negativity is the excuse as to why something can't be done.
Okay. So maybe it's not a negative.
Right. I think that you're trying to solve a problem because there's a pain point.
Yeah.
The fact that you're trying to solve that, you're not going, you know what, to whoever your boss is at the moment. Hey, you know what? I'm not going to be able to make my quota because, hey, every time I leave the house, it takes me 2 hours to get anywhere in the DC area. And you know what? I'm just not going to be able to do it.
Right.
Or, primarily what you're probably doing, you know what? I'm going to make sure my meetings are like around lunchtime and I'm going to be out. I'm going to do a bunch of calls in the morning. I'm going to do a bunch of calls in the afternoon, and my face-to-face meetings are going to be between 11 and 2, so I never have to deal with rush hour traffic. So this way, I am productive in all aspects of the sales cycle.
Yeah. So I think you kind of explain exactly what I think is negativity can be the spark, but it has to be thought about in positive terms.
Yeah, that I'm going to get through this. This too shall pass.
Yes. So it's negative, but you have to take the spin on why is it positive. And I know you said it's cliche, but the opportunity. Maybe, like you said, this coworker Jane is always going to make mistakes, but there's an opportunity to develop them because maybe you've seen that same type of mistake in your past, and you know how to overcome it.
Absolutely. So, I say this about, actually, I don't know how much I've said it on the show here or not, but, when I took over as CIO from where I'm at today, I have said to many of my people in that, what's the difference between before I showed up and after I showed up? Because before I showed up, the folks at the at the credit union were like, "Oh, you suck, you suck, you suck." When I came in, all I did, and I don't think it was that much, is I believed in them and I invested in their future. And within a short time period, all of a sudden, wow, IT delivers so much. That small little thing. Now, to them, I would imagine it's probably, it's this huge thing. To me, that's just doing the right thing the right way.
Right. So perhaps the question is not what is the illusion, but what is negativity? And the negativity is only negative if it doesn't have a positive outcome that you could focus on improving. But if you dwell on it and say this is what it is, and you take a static mindset towards a problem, then it's negative.
Absolutely. It all becomes in the way in which you think about it. If you believe that what's in front of you is horrible, then everything is horrible. I mean, this is, and I am not this kind of doctor, but I tend to believe that in some ways, people who suffer from depression, they get down that rabbit hole and they're unable to stop. And so everything becomes negative and negative and negative, and it's compounding and compounding. And that's just what I imagine it would be like. And I don't know. I don't suffer from depression, and I don't want to make light of anyone that does, because I think it's it's a very horrible thing to do. And but I think people who don't even suffer from depression can get caught on this, this overall trail of, well, I got passed over for this. This person's doing this. This person did this to me. That victim mentality.
Right.
And, while I am often accused of being arrogant, I simply just don't, no one can say anything about me that's going to have an impact on me negatively, because they don't have higher expectations for myself than what I do.
Well said. I feel the same thing about myself, and it's one of these things where you have to. I wonder, based on the premise of the question, is what is our default? Is there a default as humans? Think about more negative things because for survival purposes, or is it think about positivity? So I think that the issue, or maybe the crux of this, is identify when you kind of start thinking along those lines of negativity and catch yourself, because it's easy to start down that path, and the sooner you catch it, the better you are to solve the problems in a positive way.
Well, I think you hit the nail right on the head, right? In this particular case, self-preservation always is our first natural instinct, which tends to be the reason why we focus on negative things, because that negative thing keeps you alive, right? No one's going to necessarily remember that one little positive thing that happened, because, look, here's the thing. If you ignore something that's negative, the result could be death. That's the the worst case. The worst case scenario, if you ignore something positive, is regret.
Yeah. And here's the thing: is you're right about the focus on negativity. I saw this meme,
I
and
know.
I'm
I'm a
not sure.
doctor.
Good. And to your point, I saw this meme on LinkedIn on Einstein. I don't know if it's true or not, but it actually makes a very good point. Einstein, as a child, was writing multiplication on the chalkboard. 1 times 9, 9, 2 times 9, 18, all the way through 10, 90, and past it, 11. And instead of being correct, he had a mistake there. The entire class focused on the one mistake instead of all the previous correct answers. And to the point of that is, are we really just focused much more on the mistakes, the issues, and not the positive things, and how we can use that as a way to move forward and to accomplish even more?
Uh,
It's
uh,
just out of human nature.
yeah,
That's his point.
don't know if that's true or not, but I can tell you that there's, I can't remember his name, but he came and spoke at my executive leadership class at U of M. He's the former CEO of, well, it was Prudential Real Estate, which in and of itself would have been a Fortune 500 company that was bought by Berkshire Hathaway, and that's their real estate agency arm, which is nationwide. And he told the story of his wife calling him up and said, "You need to talk to your daughter when you get home. Her report card is horrible. Blah 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 blah." So he looks at the report card and he's like, "All right." So he goes in, knocks on his daughter's door, and says, "Hey, can we talk for a minute?" And her head's all down. "Sure, it's about my report card." "Well, sure, but I just want to talk." And so I may have the classes mixed up, things like that. And he's like, "So tell me about your English class." "Oh, I love English." "So do you like your teacher?" "Love my teacher." "Do you ask questions in class?" "Yeah, all the time." "Do you do your homework?" "Yeah." "Well, that's because you're an A student, because you got an A in English." "Tell me about your social studies." "I love social studies." "Do you like your teacher?" "Love my teacher." "Do your homework?" "Yeah. Turn it in all the time." "Well, that's because you're an A student." "Tell me about your math teacher." "Oh. Do you like your math teacher?" "Not really." "Do you ask any questions in class?" "No." "Well, what's the reason you don't ask questions in class?" "I don't want to feel stupid." "Do you turn in your homework?" Not really." But you're an A student. You know how to get an A. So what I would like you to do is ask at least 2 questions every class. No matter what you do, even if your homework is not correct, just turn it in on time. Well, she comes back the next marking period and she's got honor roll. She's got all those A's and all those classes that weren't doing very well, or B's, and even some of them got to an A. And she's like, "Oh, I like this." So that aspect of, if he had gone into that negative, now maybe his story is completely bogus. I tend to think it's probably true. Um, but it's exactly what a lot of us do. They focus on those classes they didn't do well. I think I remember him saying he had something like 5 A's, two C's, and a D or something like that. But wait a minute, you got like 5 A's,
Right.
right? You got 5 A's. Okay. Um, so
We tend
we
to focus on the negative and
right.
not on the why or the positive, how to leverage it.
Right. And this is a great time of year for me, and a great time of year for people who work, or a horrible point in time for people who work in human resources, when I'm someone that has to deliver reviews because I don't do what they want. And
Why is that?
um, because I think reviews are primarily a waste of time. And not because of doing a review, but the way in which corporate America does reviews should never be a one point in time. If that's the only time you're getting feedback, that's a failure on that management.
Oh yeah. And then how's that feedback useful? And if you didn't reach where you thought you were gonna reach, why not? And how can you improve? Things like that.
Right. And I'm a big believer in, I'm going to double and triple down on your strengths. What HR reviews start going is, well, let's tell us about your opportunities for improvement. I don't care about those opportunities for improvement because those are just a nice, polite way of saying your weakness.
And how about your opportunities to further leverage your strengths?
That's all I care about.
Already be leveraging. Exactly.
All right. There's a difference in that if someone just wants, like, I don't consider something that you don't know anything about to be a weakness. You don't know anything about it. That helps you to be a little bit more well-rounded. But you may choose, oh, I really like this, and it could become a strength, or be like, well, I know something about this, I'm not going to focus on it. I now at least understand. But I don't hire people based on their weaknesses. I look at, first, do they buy into the culture I'm trying to enable through my organization, and do their strengths mesh with my other parts of my team, their weaknesses? Are their strengths filling in gaps for the rest of the team's weakness? Like, this is literally like the Roman soldiers, where shield, there was no gaps. They had the whole thing. We've seen Gladiator, but no gaps. So when I hire another team member, I'm looking to fill a gap that their strength is someone else's weakness, and they're having that shield there. And so I don't care about those things. Now, I might tell someone, all right, look, and it's not necessarily it's a bad thing. I'm like, hey, you don't do really well managing vendors, and you need to hold your vendors more accountable. You need to hold them to the same standard that you're holding your employees.
I agree.
Right?
Yeah,
So, that's like a critique I've given people. Hey, you do really well managing these people. Why aren't you treating the vendor the same way?
So I wonder, though, going back to what you just said about the team filling in gaps, is there some type of team performance review that you share to the team that says, this is where we're doing well, this is where we're not doing so well, and these are the skills we need to focus in on as a team? That way you can identify the gaps that the team has, and then maybe someone can sort of fill that in.
In the past, yes. Since today, not mature enough yet to be able to do that. So, I've talked about this on the show a couple of times, maybe more than that. I don't hire mid-level people. I just don't do it. I either hire junior or senior level people. And that doesn't matter if it's in management or in technical. Like, so at the credit union, you've got from a management perspective, you've got assistant manager, which I would say is junior. Manager, still junior. AVP and VP, I kind of consider a little bit mid. AVP, depending on it, in our case, I might still say junior. VP, to me, in my mind, is mid. SVP is senior. So, to me, I will never hire a VP. I might hire assistant manager, AVP. Just depends on the discipline. Because those people's career path should be to get to VP. And I will hire an SVP because our organization doesn't have like chiefs report to chiefs. So it's like you're an SVP of whatever. So like my SVP of technology at other locations, they would be a chief technology officer. Every company got their own nuances. Now, when it comes back down to the individual contributor, I only have 3 levels. You are a level 1, a level 2, or a level 3. So level 1 is like junior, level 3 is senior, level 2 is mid. I will never hire a level 2. But level 1 person is what I'm going to hire, and the level 3 I'm going to hire. And now my level 1s, when I hire them, I'm telling them right away, you're going to get invested within the next year. You're going to do X certifications, 2. And each certification you achieve, you're going to get 7.5% increase in pay. And if they do everything right from year 1 to year 2, because of the exposure they're getting, the training that I'm investing in them, they should be able to get promoted to a level 2, if not then the following year. Sometimes it could be a lot, but the level 1s get promoted. And ideally, in many cases, I wouldn't say ideally, in many cases, they don't get promoted to a level 2, not because they're not doing the work, but just from that year 1, if they do everything right, from the time in which they start to their first annual review, will be about a 26% increase in pay. And so the next year, they get promoted. So if they kept doing everything right, they'll get an additional 10% increase in pay. And then in year 3, if they did everything right, they're going to get another 10% increase in pay and be a senior person. So my goal is always, how quickly can I get that junior person to the senior level? And I look for those people that are hungry.
And it's your goal as much as is theirs.
If they person I just recently promoted to a management position, I put out in the announcement to those in the executive team and IT and stuff like that, and said, this person, or many of you have heard me say that you must be better tomorrow than what you are today. And the reason why this individual has earned this promotion is because they have taken that to heart and has done blah, 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 blah. Then there's going to be the people that are like, oh, hey, good job. And there's going to be people, well, why not me? Now, some of this case, like typically, like we do promotions the beginning of the year. The reason why this individual got a promotion happens because I had an open position for a manager and they applied, which was great because, I like to see like, hey, I'm confident I can do this. And so they applied and I said, okay, let's do it. So if there wasn't an open rec and it was just a natural promotion, it would have waited till the beginning of the year like everyone else. But I had an open rec, so.
And what if it was an open rec and no applications? Would you tap people on the shoulder? Within the firm?
No. I would never, ever tap someone on the shoulder saying, hey, you should apply. Because then that means you don't have the confidence in yourself. I need people that work for me that I need to kind of pull back, not that I got to push. If I have to push you, I don't think that's a good thing. Now, a nudge here and there, a little bit different. But if I got to push you to try to be better when I've given you all the tools, I mean, look, everyone that works in my organization, it's mandatory. You do 2 hours of formalized training a week. You have access to CBT nuggets. You've got access to LinkedIn Learning that we pay for. I provide a lot of training. I do the webinars, do the virtual conferences, whatever you want. My overall FTE year, I think it's like 1890 is what my FTE year is, because I bake in. You're only working 38 hours a week.
Yeah.
2 hours, that's training.
When you institutionalize that, what have you seen out of that? Is there any consistent results, any systematic or systemic improvements that you could say now people seem to be happier because they feel like they could take on new projects and new technology instead of be daunted by new technology.
Oh, 100%. Now, for those that have truly bought in and trust, that's what I believe. Now, here's what's interesting about that. The first crop of new hires that were junior like that, they all won what we call a Bright Star Award, which is like an Employee of the Month. And I didn't nominate any of them. Someone else in the company nominated them. And then the executives, in our case, executive is AVP through CEO, they vote. So the executives voted for these people as Employee of the Month. I never vote for any people that work for me, because I just feel like that's biased and I'd be showing favoritism. They need to win on the merits, and they did. Now, getting into that part, each of those people that won are the top. So we can look at CBT Nuggets, we can look at LinkedIn Learning, and we can see the metrics. They're in the top of how many hours they train. Now, I know they're not. They're doing their 2 hours and stuff, during the week. They're not abusing that. There's no way with some of them, because they're also having to accomplish work, they're doing this stuff outside of work too. But because and
investing in themselves as well.
Yep. And they're probably taking their 2 hours during the week, but then they're going, well, hey, wait a minute. It's like in the movie Office Space. You're just doing the bare minimum flair.
You always add more flair.
To them, it becomes, well, wait a minute. I can solve more problems. I want to be better. I want to be better. I want to be better. You know what's really addictive? Winning.
Oh God, yes. Yes, solving problems, not being negative, and focusing on what you can solve through the training.
Now think about it. Think about when you were a junior guy, right? You're the junior guy over there at that 5-sided building. The first time there was any, significant outage, and you figured it out.
Adrenaline rush.
It's addictive.
I love being the superstar.
I don't. That is, it's more addicting to me than I could imagine anything. Yeah, there's not a problem I can't solve, because I'll figure out a way, or I'll make one.
So as a manager, and I think I've done this before, you want to get them some easy wins up front, kind of get them hooked on the adrenaline of solving a problem, winning, and saying, you can do this. And even if you don't think you can, it's okay to fail, at least as long as you attempt to do it. And ask me for guidance as you go along if you run into issues. And still that early and often. And behind them those wins.
Yeah, not so much. I mean, yes. And
so that's not negative energy, is what you're saying. 'Cause I kind of see it as competition.
I think competition is extremely healthy.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, think about it. This is one of the things that I've always felt all marketing departments do poorly when you're a vendor. They want to tell the customer, the potential customer, what their competitors do and why they're better. No, now you just gave me things to evaluate. No. I don't believe in doing that. As a matter of fact, I'm not necessarily even competing with anyone else. I'm competing with who I am going to be 5 years from now. That's who I'm competing with. Because in 5 years from now, if I can't run circles around who I am today, then I failed.
I agree, and that's the healthiest because, as you're saying, and I don't know this for a fact, but I think some vendors, what they'll do is they'll scope what they're good at against their competition, and likewise, their competition is scoping what they're good at and say, well, we're better at this than they are, but they're only looking at this one tiny aspect of the entire picture, kind of scoping it down, and then that's just giving all of the customers additional criteria for evaluation, and you're thinking, wow, they just sort of threw everything as a possible condition for competitiveness, and then no one wins.
Nope.
But if you're competing against yourself, these are our new features that we just introduced, and it solves the problems that we've seen recently with some of most clients. And by working with our clients, we've improved and gotten better. And as we got more clients, we're getting better and better, faster and faster.
Yep. I never, like, I mean, you've seen us when we were, when we were at Fixmo. They would bring up, oh, well, we do this at AirWatch. But I'm like, nope, get rid of that slide. Let me tell you what we do. We do integrity monitoring better than any other vendor that's out there. And here's why. I don't mention any other vendor. This is why we're better.
Your biggest competition is not even your software vendors that are competing against you. The competition is complacency. Why do you even need integrity monitoring? Well, here's why. And we do it very well, if you ask us.
Well, just take a look at Secure Computing Magazine, since all the awards. I mean, it's not just me saying it; like, we did it. But
yeah, there's that.
But
the biggest competitor in anything is complacency.
Oh yeah, I mean, most of the time, yeah. And then there's the people that are just trying to drag you down. This is a conversation I had with a recent person. And I said, as you get promoted, the higher up in the hierarchy you move, the less friends you truly have. What do you mean? Because there are going to be the people that say, oh, you only got this because of this. There's going to be people saying, oh, well, there was no one else. And then there's going to be the people that are jealous. And there's going to be the people that go, well, hey, you just, you're now, we'll say, chief officer or something like that. Well, you can afford this now. You're going to find out pretty quickly. There's a reason why, as many things that, Jason, myself, and RB kind of debunk some of Dan Pena's stuff, but there's some things that are true. Eagles fly alone. They're the apex predator in the sky. They don't hunt in flocks. And so the higher up in the hierarchy you get, the less people are your peers.
And you become pickier in a way, but less are your peers because perhaps they know that they should be afraid. In terms of the eagle, going back to that analogy, but also how open can you be about, let's say, what you did on the weekend? I don't think a lot of executives share truly what they do on the weekends. They don't want to put that out there.
It's likely. I mean, I'll say that I'm certainly not forthcoming with all the different things that I do.
And maybe more so as you've gone up.
Oh, yeah.
So it could be a product of your undoing.
Right. And, maybe. But there's also a thing that I think this is where, and you're very similar as well. In my downtime, I'm trying to improve to my better self.
Sure.
Right? Oh, I have a weekend? Oh, that means I've got 6 to try to figure out a way to be better in something that's going to help me be energized to do even more. And then there's others that go, hey, it's a weekend. That means I've got 16 hours of video games or drinking or whatever.
For me, I see it as time to invest in getting better for the next week.
Yeah.
And I know some people think it's about working or about playing video games. I think neither one of those are the right answer. I think it's about investing and improving. School, workshops, books, a hobby that's complementary but can actually help you. Maybe it's like acting or podcasting, anything.
Absolutely. Now, I play video games, but you know when I play video games, it's not often, and I do enjoy it, but I do that from when I know I'm not in a good frame of mind to socialize with my family or friends, and I'm not in a good frame of mind to be receptive to being better. Because something is going to, it puts me, hey, I'll go play Star Wars The Old Republic, and I'll go have to slaughter a whole, village of, sand people. Go to Tatooine, and I'm just going to go out there and just kill a bunch of them. Um, because it's fun and it doesn't take anything, and I can just kind of breathe into it. Now, what I've learned, and which is what I did several years ago, now I might play a little bit of things, but what I found now, what I would rather do in those moments is go sit in the sauna. Go sit in 160 degrees and sweat and just think. Being in an uncomfortable situation and forcing myself to deal with whatever it was that was preventing me from that particular moment from achieving greatness. And I will do that until I'm out of it. Now, that's different. It's different than when I go, all right, I've had a really shitty day, and then I go drink my 1 ounce of whiskey. It's a little bit different. Like, all right, I'm going to go have that, good 1 ounce of whiskey. This is, I haven't been able to put myself in a frame of mind to forget and remember whatever was happening, no more, and focus on what's going to happen next.
Yeah, you give yourself that time, and then you move on.
Yeah.
And that's healthy. And it's not an illusion of negativity.
No,
dwelling on something doesn't make it better.
Yeah. Now I'd almost, depending on the time of day, I'd go and go to an open mat session in jiu-jitsu and just go get humbled by some colored belt that's just gonna, destroy me and make me tap out many times. Because I also find that as being it's been very positive. It almost feels like meditating when I'm rolling with some of these folks.
I have a trainer, personal trainer, and I usually go in there twice a week to get completely destroyed, either on boxing or squats, and making sure I'm out of my comfort zone of what I think I can accomplish to be humbled.
The great thing, in which you might want to look at. So my jiu-jitsu studio has classes at 5:30 in the morning.
Yeah, not doing that.
I love it. They also have other classes at 8 o'clock in the morning, but that 5:30 in the morning class, and depending on the day, I'll do the 5:30 and the 8 a.m. class.
The next time I wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm wondering, what the hell am I going to do? I'll look into it.
You don't have to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Well, there's occasionally I do wake up at 4 o'clock in
Yeah.
the morning, and I need to find something productive to do.
So, do you set an alarm clock?
I actually very consistently wake up at like 6 a.m. no matter what, minimum. Occasionally I'll wake up early without it.
But do you set
No alarm clock? No.
All right. So
Basically, after the age of 30, never needed an alarm clock again.
I always set an alarm clock, and the alarm clock is set for the latest I ever want to get up.
True. And very rarely am I actually waking up by the alarm clock.
Yeah. Now, exactly. I'm getting up before then. I'm turning it off. Yeah. Now, the only other time my alarm clock really has to happen, it's like, all right, I have to get up earlier than what I would normally do because when I fly, I want to be on the first flight out. I don't want to be on the. I definitely never want to be on the last flight. I want to be on the first flight out. Why? Because those flights rarely ever are delayed. And
I never
I,
thought like that.
yeah, I don't want to. I'd rather
There's
get
no
there.
outside dependency.
Yep, because the plane's already there. You don't have to worry about anything else. I want to get out on that first flight. And so when you have a 6 a.m. flight, well, you got to be at the airport at 5. Got to be up a little bit earlier. So, all right, well, now I got to set an alarm for 4 because I don't normally get up that early. Not that I haven't on occasion, but my alarm clock is set for 6. So,
Even when I fly early, and yes, I will set an alarm clock, I usually am not awakened by the alarm.
yeah, I agree with that. And I monitor it because I know I've got to get up early. I just barely sleep. My sleep is horrible that night. I get zero basically REM sleep, zero deep sleep. I'm restless the entire night. And I can monitor it because I got this Aura ring. So
Yeah.
I love this Aura ring.
Sometimes, yeah, sometimes my sleep's not great, but there are other times it's perfect, and I still wake up on time.
Yeah, I had only 6.5 hours sleep last night, but I feel great.
I think it has something to do with how we live our lives. Like if you truly are passionate about what you do, you want to wake up.
I want to get at it. Like,
Yeah.
there's the people who say, "Oh my gosh, it's Monday." I'm like to me, it's just another day. Saturday, Sunday. It's just I'm always doing something.
Me too.
So here we are, almost at the end of the year.
Yeah.
How many books have you read this year?
So, if you're saying read,
Or
and
or
to
or or
say
listened because if
or
you
Audible,
yeah
okay.
yeah
So Audible, I would say it's about about 10. It's less than it was last year, mostly because of the additional master's degree. But you're not gonna like any of the books I'm listening to.
Well, so is that because it's because of that the law degree that you're doing?
Law degree, but also somewhat political.
Why do you think I wouldn't like them?
I don't know. I mean, is Adam Schiff one of your favorite ones?
I mean, I'm not a fan of Adam Schiff, but I mean, it's not that he's not an intelligent guy. I mean,
Yes. Yeah.
he's got a outside of some of his politics, which hey, I don't. While I may not like someone's politics, I can't discount what they have done even prior and while they're in. Like there's good in all of them. The more we
Right.
focus on those, the more we focus on the extremes, the worse it is. I'm not a fan of. I mean, he's following the party line in some cases, but
You
um,
might say he is the party line, but
well,
here's the thing: is what I really like about so far of this book, and it's like called Midnight in Washington. Just came on Audible. Is he comes from a family of one side is Republican, one side is Democrat. So he's basically come to the conclusion, and I think rightfully so, is that no one party has a monopoly on what is right or what is wrong or intelligence or stupidity. There's not like a single party that just always gets it right. He also comes from the background of being a prosecutor in Los Angeles at the time of sort of like the FBI with Robert Hansen and the predecessor to the guy who leaked out the information before Robert Hansen. So he knows how to do investigations where there's sensitivity and you may not have a complete picture because it's withheld for national security reasons. I think he's got some good points. And
I
he
I
recognizes that's
I
not just a political thing.
I find Adam Schiff to be a liberal, which I enjoy. I
Yeah.
don't enjoy those that would be considered far left or leftist or what I like to say is a democrat.
Yeah.
Liberals are closer to the center, and I think I believe um, Adam Schiff is closer to that. I don't think he's
Yeah. Okay.
now, but with some of that, there are those like, and actually, I don't even think AOC is that far from being a liberal. I think some of her other colleagues in the squad are much further on the extreme left, um, and I don't like those on the extreme right. I'm not a fan of that either. Like all right, you're a conservative. All right, I can talk to you because I'm much more depending on the thing. I'm closer. If you would take it, as much as I like to say I'm a libertarian, I'm much more closer to a centrist.
Yeah. And it sounds like there's extremes on both sides, and then
Oh
somewhere in
yeah.
the middle, there's the liberal and
I mean, and if I had to go with an actual discipline, I would probably say I am a anarcho-capitalist.
have you taken the online survey to
Yeah, we
confirm
talked
what
about
types?
this. Yep, yep,
Oh
yep.
yeah, yeah. I'm like right there in the middle.
Yeah. So I tend to lean much more towards that anarcho-capitalist.
Yeah.
Even though
The other.
I don't want to say, but I mean, I can see why. Like, I believe in small communities, small businesses doing many more things than large business. And that kind of fits that anarcho side of it.
And as an anarcho-capitalist, you're not into cryptocurrency.
Well, it's not that I like disbelieve in that. I just think it's more like art. So, at any moment in time, it can go away.
I agree.
That's it. Yeah, it's not backed, so to speak, by. I mean, it's not a fiat, currency,
Right.
right? It's
By the stroke of a pen, maybe even Adam Schiff himself could just write it out of existence.
yeah,
Now, do I think it's the future? Yes, but it has to be backed by, let's say, Swift or US or something at some level.
yeah.
Because I do think eventually it's going to replace a lot of things.
I don't think it replaces anything.
It's inevitably it's the future. Could you
How's
imagine
how's it any?
international wire transfers as they continually doing those the way we do them now with fraud and potential um, collisions of numbers and no record once it's gone? You still need anonymity.
You
But
get you
you
get
want to
you
be able
get,
to do it.
but there's really no anonymity. There's really no anonymity.
Certain blockchains have gone well other way. Monero is one of them for anonymity.
Only while you stay within that network.
Sure, if you did something with
As soon as you try to go to an
buying
exchange,
something or going through an exchange, yeah,
right? And all it, I mean, that's why I just go. It's the, it's no different
oh
than
no,
any
the
other thing.
anonymity still is consistent in the country at least once that person has taken possession
Yeah, but
of a trusted exchange.
what do you think you need the anonymity for?
If you're doing international wire trades,
Is it because you're
maybe
trying
not.
you're trying to not pay taxes?
No, I love taxes. I pay extra. I'm serious. No, I just see like let's say metaverse. There's gonna be transactions, and it does seem kind of crazy and wild right now, and I'm not completely bought in. But let's say there is some reward with risk, and I do think that people who take on a little bit of risk have the potential for a lot of reward. And in this case, there are people buying up real estate for virtual real estate for kind of like a landing page for a website, but then in a 3D environment. All those transactions within that metaverse, and I'm not saying by Facebook, but generally speaking, are happening on cryptocurrency. it could literally legitimately be a currency of the metaverse, and then also sovereign backed, like in Japan, El Salvador, with Bitcoin. So there are some participants, and it's helping it.
And the only reason why they're doing it is so eventually that each of these governments can get a piece of the pie, and then it'll remove the anonymity, and it'll just be basically the kind of currency that we have now with an immutable ledger.
Yes.
So
which is actually a good benefit.
yeah, the immutable ledger in terms of transactions and to me, people go, oh well, when are we going to get into blockchain? I think the one of the best use cases for blockchain is doing electronic voting.
Yes.
Like if your goal in any democratic society is 100% voter turnout, and based upon all statistical things that I've read in the United States, it's like 99 and change percent of people have a smartphone. Therefore, they could all vote from their smartphone in a much more secure way than in anything else, because you've got the IMEIs, you've got device IDs, you can have multi-factor, you can add in the blockchain to all those things of creating.
Not even multi-factor, multi-signature.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
How do you know you're voting at the right polling station, the polling station, the right election?
Right. All those things can be accounted for within the blockchain and have more than a 99% voter turnout. Now you've got nothing. I don't register for votes, but all those kind of voter ID. What I have a phone. And what's interesting, if you had a phone, it means you had to have a credit card or a bank account, which already had all of those ID things.
Biometric for attestation to prove that it's you.
So many things to do that, because guess what? Every single state is basically moving towards, because they keep pushing it back, but the
paper ballot still.
Not the paper, but the like the star on your driver's license, the
real ID.
Yeah, real ID. So if you've got the real ID, all of that stuff's been validating. You needed that real ID in order to get a bank account, in order to be able to get a phone at this point. So what?
And tokenize it on like the Apple ID wallet. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's like, to me, like, oh, we want to talk blockchain? That's the problem I want to see solved. I don't care about my money. I want 99% voter turnout.
So that's a use case that they're calling these blockchain apps.
Yeah.
And in currency, or store of value in a store exchange, is only one type of app that some of the blockchains are trying to solve. NFT, to prove that you own an asset, whether at this point it's a digital asset or not, or image, could be maybe real estate, and that's tied to an actual parcel and contracts.
Sure.
So as people are mining, it might not just be for currency, but it could be for the ledger that's proving other things.
Absolutely could be. The issue winds up coming in these kind of scenarios is that, well, when I have cash in a bank or credit union, it's federally insured. So if you have a, what was the Bitcoin wallet that the guy basically grabbed everything, Mount, I don't remember,
Mt. Gox.
Something like that, who just stole like millions of dollars from everyone?
Mt. Gox.
Yeah. There was no insurance, right? So I don't mind taking on risk. I just want to get paid for it. And in the event that the risk is too high, in the event something happens, I need to be able to insure it in order to protect my downside.
I 100% agree with that. And as I was talking to someone today, it's risk versus reward, reward versus risk.
Yeah.
So when someone says, hey, the T-bonds or treasury bonds are only paying X amount, hey, that's for risk-free rate.
Yeah, that's 100% risk-free rate. Yeah.
Pretty bad. But when you talk about Bitcoin, wait, what's your risk? It's almost uncalculable.
Yeah. Like this is the thing. Like, okay, like how can I straddle Bitcoin, right? Or any of the like, all right, I don't want to I don't want to make money where it's at. I only want to make money when it goes really bad or really good.
Correct.
Right?
Like a VIX.
Yeah, and I haven't found a way to do that because here's the one thing. For the most part, it's highly volatile, and for
So
me,
you can actually buy contracts on it now.
can you?
Like, yeah.
Interesting. I mean, I don't spend a whole lot of my time in it because I just kind of go. To me, like what's interesting about any of these digital currencies happens to be blockchain.
Yes.
Um, I look at investing in any of them as being investing in art. If you're good buying a piece of art for a couple $1,000s because you like that artist, cool. But it's only worth it because you like it.
Because you like it. I think there's like one element more beyond that. For example, ledger applications, like cloud applications, but to the point it's indestructible. So no single country, let's say China or other places where civil rights are very limited, you could
Washington
never
D.C.
stop it. You could never stop it. And yeah, at any point in time, something could change and just yeah. But this would make it nearly impossible to restrict it.
Well, but, I
Essentially, the
mean,
internet was intended to be
yeah.
bomb-proof.
Well, this is only when you, I mean, you still have to have that physical record. As long as a physical record is kept and you're able to maintain a secure backup of your ledger, then yeah, especially a secure backup of your ledger that can be kept offline. Yes. If everything is digital, then a nation state can manipulate it at any given time. They'll find a vulnerability in the code. It's inevitable.
There's a lot of white papers out there, and I don't have the PhD credentials like some of us here, but there's a few where they demonstrate that Bitcoin, for example, is not at the level of where it could be in terms of that level of sophistication and security. And there's others, and there's a second generation, third generation, and even beyond at the level of safeguards in place against that type of thing, tampering.
Well, I mean, again, this just comes back down in theory. Yes, we try to provide all those protections, but if I'm a nation state, and especially the more and more we get into quantum computing, if a nation state wants to be able to wreck you, you're wrecked. So what is it? This is just where I get like, what are you really trying to protect against? And so there's an overall great aspect of privacy versus adversary. And this came from this guy named JJ Luna. And what he says, there's 4 levels of privacy and there's 4 levels of adversary. And so your first level of privacy basically protects you against, people who aren't like some run-of-the-mill Google searcher. But if they're a like local PI, they've got some contacts and they're gonna defeat you. So that level 2 will be that level 1. Now you get to level 2 privacy, and they have different requirements and all that. And so things keep going up, 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 up. But when you get to level 4, you've got level 4 privacy. Any entity that has essentially unlimited funds, nation state, organized crime, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, they want to find you. There is nothing you can do to prevent an adversary with unlimited funds of breaking through everything that you have.
I agree. The best you could ever hope for is perhaps level 3.
Yep.
And I think that's what that's going to do. And I think about hiding about or anything like that. but it's the ability to have reasonable expectations that if you're going to do a contract with someone and you wanted to do it in the event that there was something wrong with the government in which you live in, not necessarily here, somewhere on the other side of the world.
Just so people know, like a level what the United States Federal Witness Protection Program does. Okay, so you've got them trying to help you, but you still do things. You're still out there, and still finds you even if you're in the Federal Witness Protection Program. You have to keep moving, and things like that. So it's just, what are you trying to protect against? And this is why I tell people, like, look, you think you've got privacy? Is your telephone in your name? Is it at your address? Do you get Amazon packages delivered to your house? Do you have any LLCs? Like, you really want to throw someone off, open up some LLCs, put it in like Alaska or Nevada. I mean, I prefer New Mexico, which if it's a single payer LLC or single owner LLC, they're anonymous LLCs. And then you start putting stuff there, and then you put a forwarding address in like the Canary Islands. Like, you can make people to where when they all of a sudden take a picture of your license plate, you can make them go on a wild goose chase. So they're going to have to be like, you're adding in some layers of defense to make, of which only now someone with some coin and really motivated to do something can do that. That's a lot of work.
Right. So for reasonable low cost, which is crypto blockchain ledger, you can get a very high level of privacy. Nothing's perfect, and
Yeah.
And hopefully no one will ever need perfect security, but nothing is perfect. But it is a nice level of reassurance with very low cost.
Here's
Stuff is not bad.
here's another one that's very low cost. So many people probably don't know this. Did you know that you can have what's called a preferred name? You could put a name on there that says you are Jack McDonough.
A preferred name for what? Like a credit card?
What's going to say right on the front of your credit card? Because based on the Visa MasterCard rules, they're not allowed to ask for ID as long as your signature matches. So if you sign and the merchant requires signature based on their agreement, and the signatures are similar, they can't ask for ID. So you could check into a hotel as Jack McDonough, provide a credit card because you are still buying it. You are still, as Mike Hylton, assuring you're going to do that, but you can have whatever name you want on that credit card.
And even with like know your customer regulations, doesn't matter.
You could literally go, all right, I'm a persona. Visa, MasterCard regulations allow that to happen. The merchants have to accept it. They can only ask for ID if the signature doesn't match. And how many merchants today are actually asking for signature?
Right.
And so when you check into that hotel, when you do that, I don't know, T-Mobile sign up or whatever, well, here's my credit card. This is the name that's on it. Here you go.
I did not know that. Also, didn't realize that you could take currency out under a certain limit, but if it's gold, it's over that limit. But if it's currency in U.S. denomination, like $50, and even though it's an ounce of gold at $1,800, you can still take it out as it's $50 and take out well above that, and then you are able to use it as gold outside the country. There's loopholes out there.
Oh, there is, and that's why there's people. Let me say people. There are those in our lawmakers that are trying to because there's different tax implications for doing that with gold, and they want to put cryptocurrencies in that same category.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like, they're going to get their money no matter what you do.
Of course.
They're going to get paid. They're going to get paid. So,
not to mention like the Panama Papers had like mostly politicians in it.
absolutely. Well, my friend, thank you so much for joining tonight. I see you've switched over to the wine. What are you drinking? What kind of wine?
I usually go Cabernets. I'm not sure which one this is, but Cabernets is usually how I wind down.
There you go. Well, I appreciate you joining tonight. Always a pleasure you coming on. You should come on more often.
Will do. We'll talk soon. Have a good.
Great. Thanks, my friend.
Thanks.
Everyone out there, take care. Have a great night.